Okay, let's just jump right in, because there is an absolutely massive, multi-trillion-dollar shift happening in finance right now, pretty much right under our noses. And what's wild is that almost nobody is talking about it in a way that makes sense.
And I'm not talking about some pie-in-the-sky promise for the distant future. This isn't some flash-in-the-pan trend. No, this is real. It's probably the biggest change to our financial plumbing since, I don't know, the invention of digital money itself, and it's already happening.
And look, this isn't some fringe crypto thing being cooked up in a garage. We're talking about the biggest names on the planet. BlackRock, JP Morgan. They're not just dipping their toes in the water, they are pouring billions, real, actual billions, into building this new infrastructure. Even governments and central banks are getting in on the action, because they see this as a way to totally redesign how money works. So, let's get into what this tokenization thing actually is, why it might just be the opportunity of the decade, and which technologies are making it all possible. Let's do this. Okay, to really get why this is such a huge deal, we got to start with the core idea. So in the simplest terms, tokenization is taking a real-world asset, a house, gold, a piece of art, shares in a company, you name it, and converting its ownership rights into a digital token that lives on a blockchain. We're not talking about digital fluff here. We're talking about real things with real-world value. Now, this one simple process unlocks three things that, before this, were either totally impossible or just a massive financial nightmare. First, you get fractional ownership. All of a sudden, you could own a tiny slice of a skyscraper in New York for like $100. Second, instant global transfers. You could sell that slice to somebody in Tokyo in a few seconds. And third, and this is the big one, everything is recorded on a blockchain. It's a permanent, public, unchangeable record. That kind of transparency has the power to completely rewrite the rules of the game.
Okay, so the concept makes sense, right? But how do you actually do it? How do you turn a physical building into a digital token? Let's break down the mechanics.
The process is way more structured than you might think. It really boils down to 5 key steps. First, custody. The actual physical thing is secured by a regulated company, like in a bank vault. Second, tokenization. A smart contract, which is really just code that runs itself, creates digital tokens that represent that asset. So a $300,000 house could become 300,000 tokens. Third, rights. Each of those tokens legally proves you own a piece of it. Fourth, audit. Every single sale, every transfer is recorded forever. And fifth, automation. Things like paying out rent or stock dividends. The code handles it automatically. No middlemen, no delays.
And this isn't just a theory, not at all. To get the scale here, just picture a country, let's call it the Kingdom of Uttara, taking its actual physical gold reserves and putting them on a public blockchain like Solana. I mean, the message that sends to the world would be incredible. It really nails this quote. This stuff has moved way beyond just crypto. This is pure geopolitics now.
But of course, every revolution has its dark side, its B side. This whole transformation is definitely not perfect, so now we've got to look at the hidden part of the story, the risks, the tough questions that you absolutely have to understand to see where this is all going.
And right away, you run into this huge irony, centralization. I mean, blockchain was created to get rid of the middlemen, right? Well, guess what? The big banks are now using the tech to build their own private, totally centralized networks, which leads you to ask a pretty obvious question. If a bank creates, manages, and completely controls its own blockchain, have we really decentralized anything? Or did we just give the same old system a shiny new name?
And beyond that irony, there are some other really serious risks. First up, custody risk. A lot of the time, you don't actually hold the keys to your assets. Some giant custodian does, so you're still trusting a third party. Then there's the regulatory maze. An asset that's perfectly legal to trade in one country might be totally illegal in another. It's a global compliance nightmare. Then there's the security risk, which is, frankly, catastrophic. We're not talking about losing some digital coins here. A sophisticated hack could literally transfer the legal ownership of a real building. And finally, we have to bust the liquidity myth. Just because you can chop an asset into 1,000,000 pieces doesn't mean anyone wants to buy them. 1,000,000 tokens of something nobody wants is still something nobody wants. So this new financial system needs a technological foundation to run on, which brings us to the next massive battleground, the war of the blockchains. Right now, there are several major platforms fighting it out to become the go-to standard that everything else gets built on.
And in any revolution, you're going to have winners and losers. The winners, they're pretty clear. Large banks and funds get way more efficient. Tech companies get a new multi-trillion-dollar market to play in.
and investors all over the world get access to things they could never touch before. The losers? Well, traditional middlemen like brokers and notaries, governments that are too slow to adapt, and old-school exchanges that just can't keep up.
In this whole battle, two titans are really standing out. On one side, you have Ethereum. You can think of it like a fortress. It's secure, it's battle-tested, and the big institutions trust it. On the other side, you've got Solana, which is more like a race car. It's ridiculously fast, super cheap to use, and it's attracting tons of new projects. Now, this probably isn't a fight to the death. It's much more likely they're going to coexist, each dominating different parts of this new market.
But hey, it's not just a two-horse race. There are other really important players who are carving out their own niches. You've got Polygon, which is a powerhouse for big company solutions. Avalanche is positioning itself perfectly for institutional finance, and Algorand is really specializing in tools for governments and for digital identity.
All right, so we've looked at the tech, the players, the risks. Let's pull out the crystal ball for a second. Let's look ahead and make some real predictions about where all of this is going to be in, say, the year 2026.
And here's a number that really puts it all into perspective. By 2026, the market for tokenized bonds alone, which is just one tiny slice of this whole universe, is expected to be worth more than $50 billion. That just gives you a sense of the sheer scale we are dealing with here. But it's more than just big numbers. By 2026, you can fully expect to see major banks offering their own crypto asset wallets. We'll probably see governments issuing their national debt directly on a blockchain where everyone can see the transactions. Tokenized mortgages will start to become a common thing. And here's the bottom line. Any blockchain that isn't focused on this tokenization wave will pretty much become obsolete.
And this all leads us to the final and maybe the most important takeaway of all. Tokenization isn't here to completely destroy the traditional financial system. It's here to create a hybrid, to merge the security and trust of the old world with the incredible speed and efficiency of the crypto world. And you know, unlike a lot of other tech trends, this time it really feels like there's no going back.
At the end of the day, tokenization is just the natural next step for money and ownership. It's a system that's more efficient, more transparent, and way more global. The new financial system is literally being written in code as we speak, which leaves us with one last really big thought to chew on. Who gets to write the rules?